When I was in high school, I believed the harder you worked, the better your results got. So I studied for hours, late nights, early mornings, caffeine, zero breaks. But my grades, average, worse. My brain felt foggy. I was exhausted, anxious, and burned out. I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? One day, I told my dad, who's a self-made entrepreneur, I'm trying so hard, but nothing's working. He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Effort isn't everything. You're playing the wrong game. That sentence cracked something open. He explained, the top performers in school and in life aren't the ones who try the hardest. They're the ones who learn how to learn. That day, my father introduced me to a concept he called the learning game. A game where most people lose, not because they're lazy, but because they're playing with the wrong rules. He told me, if you want to win, stop doing more of what's not working. Start thinking differently. That conversation became a turning point in my life because what I learned after that didn't just change how I studied. It changed how I lived. Lesson 1. Don't chase focus. Remove friction. At first, I thought I had a focus problem, so I downloaded apps, watched motivational videos, made to-do lists, but nothing stuck. Then my dad asked, why is it so hard to start? And I realized it wasn't about starting. It was about what was stopping me. My desk was cluttered. My phone was buzzing. My notes were scattered. It felt easier to scroll or snack than to study. So my dad shared his trick. Make starting so easy. You can't say no. Here's what I changed. Cleared my desk the night before. Put textbooks on the chair so I had to move them to sit. Turned off all notifications for 90 minutes. Just doing that made it 3x easier to begin. And when starting is easy, momentum follows. I stopped chasing motivation and started designing better conditions. Because focus isn't something you find. It's something you remove the friction for. Lesson 2. Mistakes are data, not defeats. One night, I bombed a chemistry quiz. I stared at the paper, frustrated and ashamed. When I got home, I tossed it aside. But my dad saw it and asked, did you look at why you got those questions wrong? I said, no. It just means I'm bad at chemistry. He shook his head. Wrong answer, he said. Mistakes aren't verdicts. They're feedback. They're telling you exactly what to fix next. That night, he sat with me. We went over each wrong answer slowly. Did I misunderstand the question? Forget a formula? Rush through the math? We wrote patterns on sticky notes. In 20 minutes, I learned more than in 3 hours of review. Because I wasn't just reviewing. I was studying my brain. And once you understand where your thinking breaks, you can start building the bridges. Lesson 3. Motivation is overrated. Build rhythm instead. There were days I felt super motivated. I'd study for hours, take notes, feel great. Then the next day, nothing. Zero drive, zero focus. It was like my brain had two modes, beast or blob. I told my dad, I wish I could feel motivated every day. He replied, that's your problem. You're relying on a feeling. Motivation comes after momentum, not before. You don't need hype. You need rhythm. He told me to stop aiming for big study days. Instead, he gave me a rule: study 25 minutes a day. Every day, no 0 days. Even on tired days. Even on busy days. The first week felt silly, but by week 3, something clicked. Sitting down to study became automatic. 25 minutes turned into 40. Some days I did more, some days I didn't, but I never stopped showing up. If motivation is a spark, rhythm is the engine, and engines win races, not sparks. Lesson 4. Don't just consume, create to remember. I used to reread notes, highlight textbooks, watch YouTube lectures, but I'd forget everything a week later. I told my dad, I feel like I'm studying, but nothing sticks. He nodded and said, that's because you're being a sponge, not a builder. He explained, when you create something from what you learn, a summary, a drawing, a voice note, you're forcing your brain to reorganize and apply the information. That's when real learning happens. So I changed my review strategy. Instead of rereading, I started creating. Sketched mind maps after each topic. Explained tough concepts out loud to myself. Wrote one-sentence takeaways after every study block. This one shift changed everything. I remembered more with less effort. I started seeing gaps in my understanding, and studying became less passive, more alive. Like my dad said, books don't teach you. You teach yourself with books. Lesson 5. Use the system, not just motivation. There was a time when I believed motivation was everything. I made big, dramatic study plans, colorful coded calendars, playlists, perfect desks set up. I'd wait for the right mood to study when I felt energized, focused, ready. But that mood didn't always come. Sometimes I'd sit down to study and end up scrolling through videos on dopamine or watching someone else pretending to be productive. One day, I vented to my dad about it. I just can't stay consistent. I told him, some days I'm in the zone, other days I'm not. He leaned back and said, you brush your teeth every day, right? Even when you're no tan the zone. That shut me up. He continued, don't rely on motivation. Build a system that shows up even when you don't feel like it. That's when I realized the best learners don't wait to want to learn. They design systems that make learning automatic. So I started small. One 20-minute session every morning before breakfast. Same time. Same chair. No decision making. No negotiation. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't feel inspiring. But that simple system outperformed every intense, sporadic, all-night study session I'd ever done. Because consistency, not intensity, is what rewires your brain. Now, when people ask how I stay on track, I don't tell them about grit or willpower. I told them about habits. And the habit I learned from my dad: make learning part of your day, not part of your mood. Lesson 6. Reflect. Don't just repeat. At one point, I was putting in the hours. I had the system. I had the discipline. But I hit a plateau. Like no matter how hard I worked, I wasn't improving anymore. It felt like spinning on a treadmill, moving fast, but going nowhere. That's when I came across the story of Dr. Ebersold, a world-class neurosurgeon. After every surgery, even the successful ones, he would go home and review what happened in his head, what he could have done better, where he hesitated, what he might change next time. He wasn't just practicing, he was reflecting. That story stayed with me. I brought it up to my dad during dinner one weekend. He said, that's the difference between working hard and working smart. Then he added, every master I've met doesn't just practice more. They think more about how they practice. So I started doing something small after each study session. Just 5 minutes to write down. What worked today? What confused me? What should I try differently next time? Sometimes the answer was simple. That Pomodoro timer helped me focus. Other times it was deeper. I realized I'm memorizing formulas, but not understanding the logic behind them. And slowly, I broke through the plateau. Because repetition alone isn't what makes learning deep. It's intentional reflection that sharpens the edge. Closing reflection. Looking back, I thought my biggest obstacles to learning were external. Not enough time, too many distractions, bad memory, lack of motivation. But my dad showed me that the real battle was inside. The way I approached learning, the way I saw mistakes, the way I treated boredom, that's where the breakthroughs happened. He didn't just teach me how to study. He taught me how to learn for life. Not for tests, not for grades, not for applause, but to build a mind that's useful, adaptable, and never done growing. So if you're watching this and feeling behind, or feeling stuck, or scattered, or lost, I want you to know you're not broken. You're just one mindset shifted away from unlocking a new level. Maybe you don't need more information. Maybe you need a new way to see learning. That's what my dad gave me. And now I'm sharing it with you. That's all for today's video. Thanks for listening.